Why the Other F Word? By me, Baldwin Trott. My chapter in the book Being Fine, the Other F Word. Why are you, a woman, creating a book about men's health? I've been asked this many times over the last 6 months. It's been a really good question, and my initial answer back then was different to the one I give now. Along with many of the authors in this book, I have been on a journey since I felt the need to create this book, one of my own acknowledgement and healing. Such is the power of acknowledging our experience and, as Maria Adriana Contreras explains, of leaving denial behind. The journey of publishing my second book, Silver Linings, Proper Books 2020, The Positive Stories of Lockdown, was coming to an end when I received a message to create this book. I call them downloads, when you feel someone is with you even though the room is empty, and a voice from inside gives you a message. Shortly after, a very good friend in the well-being world, who was in the book Silver Linings, asked me to create a book for men, a book to support men with their mental health. A further 2 connections approached me and mentioned men's mental health and how little literature there was on the topic. Then, on my favourite radio station, the DJ Eddie Temport Morris spoke about being the patron of My Black Dog and how the demand for men's mental health support had gone through the roof since a virus spread across our planet. And finally, I had a shocking story from a fellow author in another book. Her husband has sadly passed on, and in the book she fully explained why and how. This was the final nudge I needed, and as Proper Books is focused on social consciousness, to help with a very current problem, it was an easy choice. But as a woman, it's been a fascinating journey. I hope many women read this book because it is just as enlightening for women as it is for men. Wearing a mask. There are many conditions and traditional mindsets associated with being British. Pretending and hiding our fears is just one of them. Fellow author Raj Korea describes it as wearing a mask and explains how he has only just realised, post-divorce, that he has been wearing a mask all his life. Sadly, it is a very normal state for a British person to hide what they're truly thinking and feeling. I have been surrounded by many men who have this mindset. I was brought up with this value of not making a fuss. It didn't serve me well, and I truly feel it is at the core of some of the depression and anxiety faced today. But wearing a mask is not just a British condition. It is a problem men face all over the world, and author Aboriginal man Jamie Marlou Thomas proves that in his words in this book. There are so many worries in our world right now that are new and previously never experienced, and these are on top of the normal concerns and pressures we have as parents, homeowners, renters, employees and employers. We have never needed to be more aware of what we say and the language we use. All these words count and land. Each word has the potential to be heard or read by someone. These words deserve our attention, especially when they're coming from those we care about and those we hold dear. As individuals, we need more than ever to be more honest with ourselves, especially when it comes to our mental health, and to encourage our loved ones to do the same. I am very concerned about our children's mental health post-virus and the ongoing psychological impact of mask wearing, keeping our distance, and the regular messages in the media to stay safe and stay at home. One day our nation and our economy will have recovered from these times, but the damage done to our children, especially young children, may take longer to recover from. Doctor avoidance by men is often joked about, but no one is laughing now. There should be no more joking about this mindset and the short-sighted moment of pride or conditioning to soldier on. When it comes to physical and mental health, it is even more crucial that men share their struggles before it gets too bad. This is the aim of the words in this book to prevent others reaching the depths of depression and thoughts of suicide. The damage of fineness. Sadly, I have experienced hearing the devastating words that someone close to me has taken their life, not just once, but a number of times. The youngest, a male, was just 16. I've also experienced loss as a consequence of fineness. In 2007, I lost my father suddenly. He was just fine with a bit of heartburn when he flew back to his home in West Africa in March 2007, but I never saw him again. He spent his last hours in a Gambian hospital, still suffering with heartburn, as the doctor had diagnosed, and was alone when his heart suddenly and fatally failed. As a partner to someone who could rarely talk of emotion, I've experienced the repercussions of "we're fine" when our children were born 26 weeks premature and fighting for their tiny lives, weighing only £1.9 and £1.12. I was told, "It's fine, it could be worse, stop crying." I wasn't allowed to show emotion, let alone shed the endless tears of fear and worry I needed to release. I was shouted at and told to be quiet when I was sobbing uncontrollably. So instead, I took myself to a nearby car park and let go. During that dark time, I often sat alone, just with my thoughts and fears. This was when I considered the very worst act we can consider as humans, to end everything. I felt hollow and desperate and trapped, with no other way out. Thankfully, I eventually turned to my friends, or my soul sisters as I call them. They were there for me, instantly, and listened. They supported me and didn't judge or me or problem solve. They didn't try to fix anything. They just validated my struggles and sympathized, which was all I needed to help me get through another day, until eventually the days got easier, my baby's health got stronger, and eventually I left my partner. In my previous profession as a police officer, I dealt with many desperate souls. Working in the most beautiful part of Bristol has its pluses, but sadly its minuses too. The iconic Clifton Suspension Bridge attracted many people who were ready to end their lives. 3 definitely didn't, not that day that I was working. But each desperate person had one thing in common. They felt alone and believed they had no one to share their fears with, and they were mostly men. Gender and vulnerability. I truly believe that women are generally allowed and encouraged to open up more, and consequently find it much easier to reach out to their friends and share their fears. Most women haven't had the training men have had to man up, put a brave face on and say, "I'm fine." Women generally have more friends and friends they are used to sharing their inner thoughts and worries with. We are used to being vulnerable. Generally, men are not, and that needs to change. Many of the authors in this book are creating opportunities within groups and safe spaces for men to speak openly and to share. As Mark Pitcher puts it, it is time to be brave and put down your proverbial shield. It's time to be vulnerable and show other men how to be vulnerable, to show that it's okay and actually a fundamental part of being human. Sharing our vulnerability and giving compassion are desperately needed now. Particularly now, men must know they can speak up, whether that is online to charities like My Black Dog, or in men's support groups like those created by authors Kapil Gupta and Simon Walker, or to me, or to you. I'm incredibly appreciative of every author in this book. They have shown vulnerability by sharing their experience to help you or someone you know. Some of the authors are sharing their story for the very first time, which is incredibly brave. They have all, however, recognized the importance of opening up, especially now. I'm also grateful to the 2 female authors. I hope this book helps men everywhere to feel that women are supporting you. We are desperate to help. I would like to give a very big thank you to Nikki Clark and the My Black Dog charity who are supporting our book. This groundbreaking charity recognises men like author Steve McDermott who have struggled to say how bad they feel and say these words out loud. My Black Dog offers peer-to-peer online support for you if you are struggling. Simply type in the words and share how you feel. You don't need to say them out loud. Tragically, the final nudge for me to create this book came from a fellow author from a previous book. She is Indian and was married to a man who she described as typically British. When he became ill with the coronavirus, instead of admitting how unwell he was, he instead insisted he was fine. In fact, he kept repeating those words until he wasn't, and he was rushed into hospital. Sadly, it was too late. He has left his son fatherless and his wife a widow. Being honest rather than being fine could save your life. And if you hear the other F word from a friend, a loved one, or even a stranger, then ask them another question. Are you sure? Ask them, how are you really feeling? Or even, what does fine mean to you? It could save their lives. Join our Being Fine conversations on Facebook at the Being Fine book, or reach out to me, joebaldwinmentor@gmail.com. If you need help right now, please go to myblackdog.co or contact the Samaritans at thesamaritans.org. And if you're in the UK, telephone 116 123. I promise you, you are not alone.